What's up, guys? V.I.F. back with another video. Finally, gonna have some new content cranking out. I'm doing a little bit of a music review or something like that. I don't really want to give scores or anything. I don't really know. Like, how am I gonna say Tango N Vectif? Like, that got a 6, you know. So that was a solid 9, man. Like, I don't know. I liked it, you know. I didn't I didn't like it. I don't know how to put a number exactly, at least right now. But this is my just kind of discussion. I just want to bring attention to some of my favorite artists and talk about music with you guys, you know. So, Tango N Vectif by µ-Ziq. That is the name of the artist. Tango N Vectif from 1993. Now, I don't know a whole lot about µ-Ziq. Only other album I've listened to from him really is In Pine Effect, which is a really good album, but I'll have to talk about that some other time. And I just thought I'd listen to this the other day, and I'm starting to get into his stuff, you know, and really understand his style. Now, I think he's still, I mean, from what I understand, he's still going. You know, he's still making a lot of music, but his 90s stuff is like, at least from what I've heard so far, it's this classic, like, old school electronic music, IDM, you know, whatever you want to call it. You know, not too much different from what Aphex was doing back then, and Outecker, and when it was a little more unified. They all kind of split their own ways, you know, but this is that classic electronic style. And let's get into it. I got notes here. I got notes. It's hot in here, so y'all are gonna see me sweating right now. This is just my spot. This is where I'm gonna be doing the video, but y'all see me sweating. It's hot. I got my notes here just in case my brain shuts off from the heat. It's been 2 minutes, man. I'm sorry, y'all. But so Tango N Vectif. The first track is the title track. You got 4 chords, like a moderate beat, you know. Just a pretty standard µ-Ziq style, like a moderate beat with some different synths. It's a kind of a major key feel, you know. It's got like a arpeggiator or something that goes up in major fifth, you know, the whole time. It's kind of fun. Yeah, it sounds kind of weird at first, but it kind of like all layers up together and everything, so it's a fun track. Swan Volta, next track. This is a great track. I really like this one. It's got to be one of my favorites on here. And it was, this is like a faster beat, you know, a little bit heavier. It's got a syncopated kick drum, really high energy, you know. It's got a simple melody based off of like a couple different chords, a couple different arpeggios, you know. And then that's all it does at first, but it goes into these chords, and the chords play kind of different from how you would expect them to go from the melody, and it creates some really cool color and different feel in there, with these like lush pads in the background, and it's got these intertwined rhythms in this one section, in the like percussion and synths all like interacting with each other, you know, like a big percussion ensemble or something. Like you got a ton of different people hitting different stuff, you know. And it's got some beeps in there in one part that remind me of Aphex Twin's Cyro or some type of feel like that. But then you got Burnt Sienna. This one's pretty cool. It starts out a little more calm. It's got the guitars. Interesting thing about the guitars is that they go in 4/4 and 3/4 at the same time. Pretty much it's got like a 4-beat pattern and a 3-beat pattern going over each other. And then in comes this woodblock rhythm a few minutes in, and then it's got these bass glissandos, these dropping like bass sounds, you know, with a kick drum, and eventually that takes over and gives it a little more driving rhythm. That's really fun. A little bit of a calmer track. And then you got Isope, Not sure how you pronounce that one, but it's got a slower, more ambient feel, very melodic. He does good melodies, you know. He's got this signature bell synth. I don't know what synth he uses to create that bell sound, but it's pretty cool. And it has a nice glide in between the notes, you know. And it's got these soft pads in the background. Again, I like the soft pads in this album. It's pretty cool. So then the fifth track, you got Music Theme, which I don't know. I like this one. I expected a little more from it because if I were to name a track after my own alias V.I.F or something, I would make it a little more flattering. Like there's a few tracks that I like better than this one on the album, so I just wonder why he decided to name it Music Theme, you know. It's just fascinating. I just wonder what the actual reason is. But it's still good. It's like it's got a gentler beat, and it's got strings and arpeggiators and stuff. Really fast arpeggio, and the bass does this funky like movement in major thirds, and sounds really whole tony. You know, I know I'm speaking in music theory now, but like the bass is doing the whole tone stuff, and then the strings above are doing like halftone stuff, if that makes sense. It's very chromatic in the string, so it's an interesting kind of chord progression that feels kind of mysterious and weird, you know. So that's an interesting track. Then you got Akim. That's a very kind of abstract. Somebody in the comment section said it was like a cool abstract concept, you know. It's got a pretty standard beat, but the drums are very distorted. And the drums have very strong like filter modulation, so it's going like, you know, and you've got this arp fading in and out, this very mysterious reverby like creepy feel kind of, and then these chromatic pad interjections that it's just kind of wandering, you know. It's not like a melody or chord progression that really seems to go anywhere. It's just really chromatic and kind of just wandering, you know. You don't know exactly what note's going to be played next by this pad, and it's really kind of dissonant but also kind of nice and a gentle background, you know. And it's it's a really good contrast from the drums and arpeggiator, so I like that track. It's pretty interesting. And then you got Vibes. This is another one of my favorites just because it almost makes me laugh, you know. He uses an actual vibraphone sound and does chords with it, with these weird like funky 6 sus2 chords or something. Like, I don't know how many of y'all know music theory, but you know, you can hear 6 sus2 at least and be like, whoa, that sounds weird. So you know, that's kind of like how I'm trying to describe it. And then he does like some augmented chords which have a lot of whole tones in them and something like that, you know. I didn't really analyze it fully, but it's something like that. And then he keeps adding different chords on top, and it's very experimental, you know. When I listen to music, the artist, not just any music, when I listen to his stuff, I feel like I'm listening to somebody who doesn't really know music theory, but just is so experimental in his melodies and really good with rhythm and loves drums and these driving beats and stuff. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing music theory, you know. Music writes really good melodies, and I really like the one in Swan Volta, you know. I really like the stuff in Vibes because it's really complex. And when I listen to his stuff, I hear some stuff that's really melody driven, like he kind of hit gold, you know, like he discovered a good melody and went with it and used it strongly, you know. And then there's other tracks where the melody is not so great, but he gives it a perfect role in the beat, if you know what I mean, and still like at least makes it really interesting. And Vibes, I kind of get that feel, you know, where like he didn't really probably know what he was doing with these chords. I don't know if he really knows music theory or not. I'm just kind of speculating, but he just messes with chords and does different ones until they sound kind of like he wants them, and and does really weird ones just to experiment and layers them on top of each other. It's really cool. It's really jazzy, you know. And speaking of jazz, he goes into this solo section in this track with the vibraphone playing one line, you know, at a time, playing much more melodically, much more fast, up and down the scales, you know, up and down the arpeggios, whatever. And I mean, you can tell he was selective in his note placement and stuff and really fit these into the chords one way or another, but it sounds really kind of robotic and colorful at the same time, you know, really just aggressively dissonant, and I like it, you know. It's really cool. It's like this whole big jam sesh, you know. So then you got Ad Misericordium. I'm not sure how you pronounce a lot of these names, but this one is very the rhythmic, you know, very, the percussion is really synth driven. You got drums, you got a bass drum and everything, but a lot of the rhythm comes from these synths playing really stabby, like articulated notes and glides and glissandos and stuff. And you got like this strong bass with harmonics, you know, and it sounds really cool. It does this harmonic seventh, and it just sounds really clear and like kind of machine-like, you know. It's really cool. Beatnik 2. This one is one of my favorite tracks as well. It has like major seventh chords, kind of like a synthwave feel, you know. I don't know how much synthwave was popular in the 90s, but you can bet a lot of synthwave like artists today listen to stuff like µ-Ziq and take influence. So it has kind of a synthwave feel, and it has this improvisational sounding wooden flute. It's really cool, and it fits into these chords, the flute, and it's got this big reverby bass sound, and doing a lot of notes in the major scale, and a few chromatic notes that sound really nice and colorful, you know, and it sounds really happy. And then it goes to this minor feel and layers up and gets a little more ominous and a little more dissonant, but it's generally a pretty happy, like calm, relaxing style track. Next track, Die Zweite Heimat. I think that's how you say it, but this has got a rhythmic bass line with chromatic melody and pads. I remember it being kind of funky, you know. It's like the bass goes really fast and does these odd patterns. I think it's in a major scale, but the stuff above it is really chromatic, and it makes it sound really, really funky and just odd, you know. But it's a really groovy track, and then it adds in this like tape scratch sounding lead synth at the end that just goes crazy, and oh, that feels good. But then you got Sonic Fox. The Sonic Fox. This one is interesting. It's got really heavy drums, maybe some of the heaviest drums in the whole album, and these like really high pitched beeps and stuff. But it's got these soft, relaxing pad chords in the back and a major key, and it's really and it's this really gentle melody. And if the pads were by themselves, it would be really relaxing. I mean, it kind of is, you know. So the beat kind of repeats itself and lets you kind of focus on the pads. Yeah, I like that. I like the contrast. But then you got the final track, Cesium. This is another one of my favorites. It's got this fast and driving beat to close out the album, you know, with a bang. And it's got these arpeggios in this bell synth that the arpeggios are in a minor key, and so is the bass. The bass is really heavy and stuff too. It's like really loud. And the bass and arpeggios make these really cool chords, like these seventh chords, these kind of jazzy chords, you know. Minor seventh chords, major seventh chords, like dominant ones, you know. And then it goes into a whole tone scale later on in the track, which is that kind of mysterious, like augmented, kind of quirky sound that I was talking about earlier. And it does these arpeggios, these falling scales and rising scales and whole tone stuff, octaves in the bass, really groovy. But then it goes back into a major scale with a really cool transition where he goes into the minor scale, but he starts with a seventh chord off of the third in the bass off of the third and the minor scale. Like I said, I don't know how many of y'all this really makes sense to, but I'm just saying it's a really cool transition and it sounds really interesting. You can kind of pick out what I'm talking about, like just by listening to it, and like it goes from this mysterious scale to this kind of new jazzy feel, and then back into the energy with the original minor key, you know. And I could spend a lot of time talking about chordal analysis in this album, and maybe I will. Maybe I'll do a separate video even just for like individual tracks, you know, because it can take a while to talk about that stuff. But like I said, I don't know if µ-Ziq knows music theory. He should, right? His name is µ-Ziq, but he does make really cool melodies and chords, and he doesn't shy away from messing with that stuff and getting it to sound good. That is Tango N Vectif. My favorite tracks are definitely Swan Volta and maybe Beatnik 2, and definitely Cesium. Especially Swan Volta and Cesium are really the stick-out tracks for me, because Cesium for the insane melody and chords and stuff and the fast driving beat, and Swan Volta, same thing for the fast driving beat, you know, and just the interconnected rhythms, the percussion ensemble feel, you know, and a little bit for the melody too. Those are really cool tracks in both of those regards. And µ-Ziq, I feel like, has his highs and lows with melody, but when he does one of his like fast driving beats and combines it with one of his best melodies, you know, it's just really cool. So let me know what you guys think of this album. Go listen to it, you know. If any of y'all like IDM or electronica or post-rock or like dream pop, I don't even like shoegaze. I'm not that picky, but if you guys have suggestions to talk about stuff, hey, if any of you guys are listening to my channel and if you make music, like send me some of your music, you know, because I want to talk about stuff. I want to build some kind of community and share people's music, you know, and build up my exposure by doing that, and yours too, you know, if you want to participate. So like post-rock or electronica mainly is what I listen to a lot of, and I'm excited to talk about music on my channel. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and maybe I'll make some shorter ones. I'm just kind of talking. I haven't really practiced that much. I have these notes, but I went on a lot longer than I expected to, so maybe I'll figure out a way to make it shorter. But let me know what you guys think. I'll see you guys next time.